NASCAR season is right around the corner and everyone is wondering what happens this year. Today, I'll give you my 2024 NASCAR predictions. I got 20 predictions listed, so get ready for this video to be long as hell. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to it. We're going to start off bold with these first few predictions. I'm going to go ahead and say that Carson makes the Cup Series playoffs in his rookie year. Carson is very talented and he proved that in his first few Cup starts in 2023. If I was a betting man, I definitely think he's going to do something stupid this year because he just can't help himself. But when he's not pulling any shenanigans, I think he'll find himself in the top 15 quite often this season. Not only is he really talented, but Spire Motorsports has a lot more partners that have come on board, and they also moved into Kyle Busch's old shop where he managed his truck team for many years. In general, Spire has been making a ton of big moves within the past year, and I think it's all going to pay off and you're going to start to see it this year. I think they're going to have more raw speed, and the guy that's going to get the most out of their cars is Carson. Will he win? I'm not sure, but I think even without a victory, he can point his way into the playoffs. If y'all didn't laugh at that prediction, then this next one should do the trick. Kyle Larson will win a super speedway race this year. Now hear me out real quick. Larson gets caught up in a lot of shit at super speedways, but he runs well at those tracks for the most part. I think a lot of people look past that. He almost won the Daytona 500 in 2017 but ran out of fuel, and could have won the spring 2022 Talladega race but just made the wrong move. He always ran well at the super speedways for a while, and ever since he joined Hendrick Motorsports, he's really been in the mix. Unfortunately, these type of races are lotteries and Kyle Larson hasn't hit the jackpot yet, but I feel like this year could be the year where he finally checks off a super speedway win off his bucket list. Roger Karu will finally become a winner in NASCAR. Like I said in my Step It Up video, I feel like Roger needs to win this year and I think he can get it done. Spire is the team he's going to be driving for, and I expect that program to be strong right out of the gate. Roger has shown flashes of talent, but he's made a lot of mistakes, and I would like to think in 2024 he'll be able to put together a better season and actually get a win or two in his sophomore season in trucks. Sometime in 2024, NASCAR will announce that they will increase the horsepower for the Cup cars for 2025. In our dreams is what a lot of you are probably saying, but I think NASCAR will eventually give in and give the Cup cars more horsepower. Literally everyone is asking for it. Now, how much horsepower? If I had to guess, it'll probably be increased to about 750. I personally feel like that won't be enough to make much of a difference, but it would be a step in the right direction at least. If it was up to me, I would take the goddamn taper spacer off and just let them rip at 950 horsepower. I think then you'll notice a difference. But I know that won't happen. 750 horsepower on the other hand is more realistic, and I can see NASCAR finally giving in. I think two underdogs will make a deep playoff run this year. The reason I say that is because there's even more races in the playoffs that are wild cards. You already have Talladega and the Roval, now you throw in Atlanta, which is a mini super speedway, and Watkins Glen. These races usually got a high percentage of turning into shit shows, which means it's going to be even more about survival and luck if you want to advance in the playoffs. I could see guys that weren't really looked at as serious contenders in the playoffs make a deep run. I'm talking round of 8 or possibly making the final 4. For the first time in his Cup career, Bubba Wallace will have a multi-win season. Bubba is coming off his best overall season in Cup so far. He didn't win, but found himself running up front a lot more often. Not only that, but he's improved in qualifying and also at the road courses, which is known to be a track type he struggles at. This 23 team led some races last year on pure pace, but something that will happen is that they will fade later in the race. The speed is there, and Bubba Wallace seems like he's mentally doing better as a race car driver. I'm not saying he's going to be a championship favorite, but I do think he gets about 2 or 3 wins this year. In 2024, NASCAR will announce that Rockingham will return to the Cup Series schedule in 2025. It's a big effort in trying to get NASCAR back to Rockingham. They repaved the track, and now obviously the next step is to renovate the facility. A few years back, Rockingham was granted with $9 million, and they put it to use in order to get the track up and running again. With talks recently picking up about them trying to get NASCAR back there, I think they'll have something to announce this year regarding 2025. Denny Hamlin will start to regress as a driver. I think Father Time is finally about to start showing up at Denny's door. I'm not saying he's going winless this year, but I expect him to win one race and record the lowest amount of top 5s and top 10s he's had in years. And I just think that's going to continue until he eventually hangs it up. I think Denny's last great shot at a championship was in 2023. Hamlin turns 44 this year, and it's only a matter of time before he starts to slow down as a driver. Also, he's juggling so much. He has a race team, a podcast, and many other things that could be distractions. And even though all of those things hasn't impacted his performance on track up to this point, I think it finally does, along with Father Time catching up to him. Ty Dillon will make the Truck Series playoffs. I've said for the longest that Ty Dillon is a Truck Series caliber talent at most. After many years of cup racing and not really doing much, he announced that he'll be driving for Rackley Ward Racing in the Truck Series, and to be honest, this is a really good move. Rackley Ward has come a long way in a short time span. They had Matt Benedetto, who drove for them for 2 seasons and did really well with them. Got a win and made the playoffs with his team. He also took good care of the trucks and in general built his team up. Now it's Ty Dillon's chance to take advantage of what Matt built and continue to put that 25 truck in the top 10 consistently and make the playoffs, and I think he will. This team continues to get faster, and I think they'll give Ty Dillon the trucks he needs to go out there and contend for a playoff spot. My predictions when it comes to drivers that get the most wins in each series is this: Nick Sanchez with 5 wins in trucks, Chandler Smith with 6 wins in Xfinity, and Kyle Larson with 6 wins in Cup. My reasoning for each, well, to start off with Nick Sanchez, he showed a lot of raw speed last year, but just couldn't put it all together. 5 poles but no wins. With a year of experience under his belt, I think that changes this year. Chandler Smith was held back by Kaulig in his rookie year, but still put together a solid season. He's going into his sophomore season in Xfinity and is going to an organization that is top notch. Chandler is super talented, and I think he's going to be the clear favorite for the title this year. And with Larson, he's been the fastest guy in Cup since he got to Hendrick Motorsports, and I don't see that changing this year. Combine a super talented driver and top-notch equipment, and they're going to visit victory lane a lot. That's if they don't make a ton of mistakes. Larson the past 2 seasons has made a lot of fuck-ups, but I think he finally cleans it up this year, and if he does, I can definitely see him getting 6 wins and maybe even more. With the amount of hype the Brickyard 400 is getting for its return to the Oval, I'm predicting that it will be 100,000 fans in attendance for this race. I know that sounds ridiculous, but with all the hype I've been seeing for this race, I really think it's going to happen. That's still not great attendance because Indianapolis Motor Speedway capacity is about 300,000, but it'll be the most fans we've seen at the Brickyard in quite some time. With some years removed since they ran at the Oval, it's made people really nostalgic for it, and now that it's back, I think for its return at least, you will see 100,000 people at this race. It's going to be funny as hell when the race reaches halfway because I know it's going to be people complaining about the racing product not being good. With how bad the Gen 7 car is with dirty air and Indy being a single groove track, I definitely expect this race not to be great, but it won't shock me. Chase Elliott bounces back this year. He gets 3 wins and makes a deep playoff run, which has been the norm for Chase since 2018. 2023 was an off year for him. The injury, and it just seemed like his head wasn't in the right space. I think he'll be back to his normal self this year. I feel like all the Chase Elliott fans can chill because some of the shit I've read on Twitter has been wild. This team will be fine. Chase Elliott is an elite talent, and I'll be shocked if he has another mediocre year. SVG wins in the Xfinity race. I've seen some people doubt him when it comes to the Xfinity series at least because those cars aren't like the Cup cars. And with the Cup cars, they're very similar to the V8 supercars in a way. But knowing how talented SVG is, I'm sure he'll figure those cars out really quick and compete for wins and snag at least one. It's going to be hard to beat AJ Allmendinger at the road courses, but I feel like SVG is one of the few that can beat him straight up in the Xfinity series this year. This may surprise some people, but I think the Iowa Cup race will be a Race of the Year contender in 2024. I know that sounds shocking because Iowa pretty much falls into that short track category, and we know how ass the racing has been at the short tracks and road courses with the Gen 7 car. And with NASCAR not making significant changes to the race package for these tracks, I expect the same type of racing except at Richmond and Iowa. This is going to be unpopular, but I feel like the only short track that hasn't been affected that much with the Gen 7 car is Richmond. It's put on very solid racing even with this car, and when I look at Iowa, it's very similar to Richmond. You can run everywhere and make time. I'll go as far as saying that Iowa is more racy than Richmond. Both tracks are worn out and that leads to heavy tire wear. I personally think Richmond puts on good racing, and I expect the same at Iowa. It's not much hype for this race right now, but I think after this race has concluded, people might want to keep this track on the Cup schedule for the foreseeable future. Stewart-Haas Racing returns to victory lane this year. I think they'll get 1 win, and it's going to be with Chase Briscoe. This team has been on the downfall within the past few years. They lost Kevin Harvick, they're losing sponsors left and right, and besides Chase Briscoe, they don't have a lineup that has a lot of Cup experience. I think they'll run about the same as they did last year. I could see Chase Briscoe winning at a super speedway or a road course. Even when a Ford team is not doing that great, they always have speed at the super speedways, so I honestly think that's their best shot at a win this year, unless SHR does a complete 180 in performance and actually get back to where they were just a few years ago. But even if they don't, I got them winning at least one race in 2024. Kyle Larson will finish top 10 in both the Indianapolis 500 and the Coca-Cola 600. He'll finish 10th in Indy and 3rd at Charlotte. As a Kyle Larson fan, I would love for him to win both these races, but I'm trying to be realistic. I do think Larson is good enough to get top 10s in his attempt at the double. All eyes are going to be on him that day, and it's going to be very interesting. This is if he makes the Indianapolis 500, because it most likely will be bumping when it comes to the 2024 Indy 500. Lewis Hamilton will run a NASCAR race this year for 23XI Racing. I really think this happens. Lewis is towards the end of his F1 career. He's accomplished everything you can in F1. 7 championships, over 100 wins, over 100 poles, won the Monaco Grand Prix 3 times. He's done it all. I think starting this year, he's going to start to dip his toe into other things, and I think one of those things will be racing in NASCAR. Why 23XI Racing? Denny Hamlin was actually talking with Lewis Hamilton when the F1 series came to Las Vegas, and I'm sure Denny was trying to convince Lewis to do a race with 23XI Racing in 2024. I don't know what race. It'll most likely be a road course, and then whenever it's announced, it's going to be huge for both NASCAR and F1. Brad Keselowski will win the regular season championship. Ever since Brad Keselowski took ownership in Roush, that team has turned around for the better. Keselowski's teammate Chris Buescher has done all of the winning, while Brad still looks for his first victory with RFK. Even though he hasn't won yet, he showed some pretty good consistency last year with the team scoring 16 top 10s and got an average finish of 14.4. In 2024, Brad Keselowski takes his consistency up to the next level. I don't think he's going to win tons of races. As a matter of fact, I only see him getting 2 wins this year, but he's going to top 10 this season to death. So much that he would get close to 30 top 10s in a season. I don't think he breaks Jeff Gordon's record for most top 10s in the season, but I do think he'll get close. His consistency will win him the regular season championship and carry him all the way to the Final Four. Kevin Harvick will make Fox 5% better. Yeah, that's not a lot, but I do think he'll make a positive difference. Harvick is a guy that doesn't play around. If he sees something that isn't right, he'll tell you. He was like that during his driving career, and he'll carry that into his broadcasting career. Harvick is very informative, and Fox desperately needs someone like that because we know Clint Boyer won't be that guy. Someone that's driven these Gen 7 cars and can provide great analysis and actually educate the viewers at home. I think he'll bring that to the table. Plus, I don't think he's going to be afraid to call Fox out when they fuck things up. And to wrap this up, here's my Final Four across the top 3 series. Truck Series Final Four will consist of Corey Heim, Nick Sanchez, Ty Majeski, and Lane Riggs. Xfinity Final Four will be Chandler Smith, Adrian Allmendinger, Cole Custer, and Sam Mayer. And with the Cup Series Final Four, it will be Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain, and Joey Logano. That's my 2024 NASCAR predictions, and when I sit here and look at these predictions, a lot of them are bold, but I feel pretty strongly a lot of these will happen. So let me hear what y'all gotta say. Leave your 2024 NASCAR predictions in the comments. It's always so fun reading and watching videos regarding the upcoming NASCAR season. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll up out of here. Y'all have a good one. Peace.